The holidays are a time to gather with friends and family, but for children who are grieving the loss of a loved one, it can be an especially hard time of year. That's where Judi's House can help. It's the only freestanding organization in Metro Denver area devoted to providing care to grieving children and their families. With more on this important organization, I'm joined by CEO Jessica Maitland-Mayo. Great to see you today. And this is an important topic because this is a sensitive time of year. And so talk about what Judi's House is and who they help.
You bet, Jackie. We're so glad to be here. And you're right, this time of year it's so important to get this message out about some messages of hope when things can feel really hard for families out there that are experiencing a loss. So Judi's House is one of the only freestanding organizations in the Denver metro area that exists to solely support grieving children and families if they've experienced the loss of a loved one and are looking for where they can find support and resources. We exist to make sure that we can provide counseling, we can provide support, we can provide additional resources for families that are really struggling during that time.
So talk about how childhood bereavement can impact the community.
You know, that's one of the things that we feel so strongly about helping our community understand is the prevalency rates of childhood bereavement are huge. I think sometimes it's something that we just don't think about when we think about needs within our community. If you look at this on a national level, and actually one of the great things about our organization is we have a component that's very research-based. We've partnered with New York Life Foundation and they've helped fund some very significant research we've done to kind of figure out what these real prevalency rates are across the country. Around 5 million children will face the death of a sibling or a parent by the time they reach 18.
Wow.
That's nearly 5 million in our entire country. And I think oftentimes it's not a issue that is top of mind unless it's affecting us personally.
Certainly.
So one of the things we're trying to do is really help create more grief-aware communities as we do this work.
And then can you bring that down to Colorado and the impact in our state?
You bet. The research that we've done has also told us if we look at kids within our own state, it runs about 1 in 16 will face those similar losses. So 1 in 16 will experience the death of a parent or a sibling by the time they reach 18. And if you think about what those numbers mean for us in a typical classroom, that would be 1 child in 1 classroom. For our state as a whole, if you looked at Empower Field at Mile High, we would fill that stadium up 1.25 times of children that are experiencing this loss. So we need to make sure that as a community, we're providing resources and an environment where those kids can feel not so alone in that experience and have a place to go, like Judi's House, to get the support that they need.
Jessica, I know that you became involved in Judi's House really as a client initially. Would you be willing to share your story with us?
Sure, you bet, Jackie. And I think it's important for folks that have had these types of experiences to be willing to talk about it, because one of the main reasons we exist and our vision is all around making sure that no child feels alone in grief, and to really provide that connection and healing for a family and a child going through this. So for myself personally, nearly 7 years ago, I lost my husband. He passed away, my husband of 20 years. And at that time, I had 2 kids, a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. And I was working a job that in its own way was stressful and part of my community, part of my family, and my world really turned upside down.
Sure.
And to find that safe place to bring your children and to bring your new version of a family and get the support and resources that you need in terms of counseling and group counseling and individual work with folks who are going through similar things was very meaningful for our family, and really for my kids to be able to look at other kids and see that they aren't alone in their grief process. I think that's a key part of our work, is to make that connection available for young kids to know that they're not alone while they go through this time.
Certainly, and I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm glad you found your home with Judi's
Thank
House.
you.
And so can you talk about some helpful tips that might help families and children, especially during the holidays?
Yeah, it's a very stressful time for everyone, especially grieving families. And our 10-week Pathfinder program, when folks come to us, it's free of charge, and all of our services are free of charge for folks who come to our organization. And one of the things we primarily do over those 10 weeks is teach coping skills for folks to get through hard times. And one of the things that we've really talked about is really making space to listen to one another, to kind of slow down, if there's a way for those mindfulness activities to try not to let the hecticness of the season kind of come your way. And really a hard thing for families is you're developing new ways that you approach the holidays. And if you can do that in a way where you listen to each other, I think that's very helpful.
And then what can we and our viewers do to help Judi's house?
Yeah, thank you for asking. You know, first and foremost, we're trying to create a world around us that is more grief aware and grief sensitive. So if you know someone that's experiencing this, lean in and be someone who can listen. Also, our organization is always looking for volunteers. We run on a volunteer basis. Everything we do is free of charge. So we also feel that financial support is incredibly helpful for us as we come towards the end of the year. So a lot of ways to get involved, but really just making yourself available for those who are grieving.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Yeah,
and happy holidays to you.
Thank you, Jackie.
We help ensure that Judi's House can continue to provide counseling to grieving children and families. You can donate your time by volunteering or simply donate funds to ensure families have access to services at Judi's House free of charge. You can find more information and find those resources online at judishouse.org, or you can give them a call at 720-941-0331.